Alokatawantok Yerekamlo Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific, Minemblomi Koroi Hawkins. Coming up.
面对极权主义的扩张
In the face of authoritarian expansionism,
Taiwan's president calls on Pacific allies to safeguard democracy. Also,
word that I had gotten from that side is that they have the numbers.
A vote of no confidence looms for Tonga's Prime Minister, and it's a jam-packed weekend for Pacific Sevens fans with lots of action in Cape Town and Solomon Islands. Taiwan's President Lai Chin-te has urged his allies in the Pacific to stand together and safeguard democracy and peace in the Indo-Pacific region. As well as visiting the Marshall Islands, Tuvalu and Palau, Lai had stopovers on U.S. soil in Hawaii and Guam, which ruffled feathers in Beijing. Guam correspondent Naina Rao has the story.
Taiwan President Lai Chin-te received an enthusiastic welcome at Guam's Hyatt Regency Hotel. Wearing a floral shirt, he greeted dozens of supporters, many from Guam's Taiwanese community, who stayed late into Wednesday evening to see him arrive. The U.S. territory was the fourth out of 5 stops on Lai's highly publicized week-long trip aimed at shoring up support from Taiwan's remaining Pacific allies, the Marshall Islands, Tuvalu, and Palau. These island nations make up 1/4 of a dozen states that maintain diplomatic ties with Taiwan, a shrinking number as China continues efforts to push Taiwan off the international stage. But it was Lai's 2 transit stops on American soil that drew the most condemnation from Beijing. The president began his overseas trip with a 2-day stopover in Hawaii over the weekend and on Wednesday overnight in Guam. Beijing says the stopovers violate its diplomatic understandings with Washington, but the U.S. maintains that transit visits are a courtesy extended to Taiwan's leaders. On Thursday morning, Lai delivered public remarks alongside Guam Governor Leon Guerrero at a joint welcome appearance.
面对极权主义的扩张
in the face of authoritarian expansionism, all like-minded countries and areas must unite and collaborate to safeguard democracy, peace, and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region.
Speaking through a translator, the president called for unity in the face of common threats without explicitly mentioning the PRC or Beijing.
关岛和台湾
Guam and Taiwan are both situated in the first island chain. Moving forward, we must work closer together and stand side by side to safeguard and maintain peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region.
Both Lai and Leon Guerrero expressed their desire for deeper cultural and economic ties between Taiwan and Guam. Leon Guerrero announced the resumption of direct flights between Taipei and the island with United Airlines beginning next year. It's in addition to Taiwan's own China Airlines recently resuming its direct air links. President Lai says he hopes this will bring an influx of Taiwanese tourists to Guam. Among Guamanians, though, the stopover has drawn mixed reactions.
The visit to Guam and other island neighbors by President Lai is a momentous occasion that I think reaffirms and strengthens our relationship with Taiwan.
That's meteorologist Landon Eidlet.
I hope this visit highlights the beauty of our islands and also the region with hopes of bolstering tourism to our islands.
While attorney Happy Rans is concerned about Guam being targeted amid U.S.-China tensions.
I don't think China is going to attack Guam immediately, as in the wake of the Taiwan president's visit, but in the long term, it is a concern.
Despite a tense geopolitical environment, Governor Arnold Palacios of the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas envisions an enduring relationship with Taiwan. He spoke at a luncheon held right before Lai's departure.
We share a distinct common value with Taiwan, and that is democracy, friendship, cultural similarities, and we continue to support Taiwan in making sure that our democracies across the region continues and endures forever. Thank you.
Lai points out how democracy has afforded Taiwan freedom and creativity to develop its economy and a rock-solid partnership with the U.S. and its allies.
But today, Taiwan has become the beacon of democracy of Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, dear Taiwanese fellow citizens, no matter where you are in this world, let us make a joint commitment to continuing to deepen democracy and protect democracy, and let us not bow down to authoritarian regimes. How's about that?
President Lai's Pacific tour concludes in Palau, meeting with President Serangel Whips Jr. and cabinet members to discuss major bilateral cooperative projects, regional issues, and international matters.
After a week-long delay, Tonga's Prime Minister, Hu'akavameiliku Siaosi Sovaleni, is now scheduled to face a vote of no confidence on Monday. The challenge has been brought by MP Aisake, who claims to have the numbers to topple government. It's the second vote of no confidence he's brought against Hu'akavameiliku. The first in September last year was defeated 14 votes to 11. RNZ Pacific's Tonga correspondent Kalafi Moala told Don Wiseman this time Aisake claims he has more support.
Word that I had gotten from that side is that they have the numbers. In other words, they will have 14. Although there's still one or two that are unsure. In other words, they can cross the line with the other side. But it seems to be very strong. The vote of no confidence is going to go their way.
This would be seen as a remarkable turn-up for Tonga, wouldn't it? Because there was a government that seemed to be growing in authority, but clearly there are people dissatisfied out there.
That's correct. I think one of the key things that makes up the numbers here is that you have, for example, the original 10 people that first initiated the vote of no confidence. It included 3 nobles, and that's kind of remarkable. That's not known from before. The nobles usually stay out of vote of no confidence until the last minute. But the fact that there were 3 nobles, Tuila Kepa, former Speaker of the House, Tui Vakano, another former Speaker and Prime Minister, and then Nuku. There are 3 powerful nobles. And then the possible vote of 3 more nobles coming in, it means the nobles are quite involved in the vote of no confidence. So that's something quite new in this whole vote of no confidence episode.
Who can we imagine is going to become Prime Minister? Are we talking about Aisake or someone else?
The interesting thing is that the first issue, of course, to see if there's going to be a vote of no confidence, that means it's a no confidence in this government. In order to form a new government, they'll have to talk about who's going to be the Prime Minister. And it is not sure that Aisake is going to be the one. There are 2 or 3 others in the group that could be Prime Minister. So they're going to have another time of trying to figure that out. That's a whole totally different thing from having a vote of no confidence.
And there is this other question, of course, that in 11 months or so there's going to be a general election.
Yeah, that's why I initially felt before that it was a bad timing because they're going to be basically in government for about 2 months, and it doesn't give them time to work out anything. They have to come up with a budget, and then the election, the parliament will be in break for another 3 months before the election. But I think there's an element here that's very important, and most people do not realize that. I believe that a lot of these guys in the group, vote of no confidence, are basically watching His Majesty the King to see what he's thinking and where the palace office is. As you know, there have been a kind of a strained relationship between His Majesty and this Prime Minister. And even though there were no details released, but to me, the fact that there are nobles involved in this vote of no confidence, it shows you that they are watching His Majesty, and not necessarily he's telling them to do something, but they feel comfortable that the vote of no confidence is not something that he is against.
In an earlier statement, Prime Minister Hu'akavameiliku questioned the timing of the motion, which comes just 11 months before the next election. Palau's president is inviting US President-elect Donald Trump to visit the Pacific to see the impacts of the climate crisis firsthand. Mr. Trump's critics call him a climate change denier. Palau is set to host the largest annual Pacific Leaders meeting in 2026, and the country's leader, President Tsurangani Whips Jr., says he'd love the new president to be there. He might even take him snorkeling. Lydia Lewis reports.
In Pacific waters, corals are bleaching and entire nations are under threat. Palau's President Tsurangani Whips Jr. has seen it for himself.
I was out snorkeling on Sunday, and once again, it's unfortunate, but we had another warming of the oceans, so I saw a lot of bleached coral. And it's sad. It's sad to see that it's happening more frequently. These are just the impacts of what is happening around the world because of our addiction to fossil fuels.
And now he wants Donald Trump to see the impacts too.
So I would very much like to bring him to Palau, if he can. That would be a fantastic opportunity to take him snorkeling and, yes, see the impacts.
Impacts, he says, are clear-cut.
See the islands that are disappearing because of the sea level rise. See the taro swamps that are being invaded. That's something that you need to experience. I mean, they're experiencing it in Florida and North Carolina, and they just had major disasters recently.
But US President-elect Trump isn't necessarily known for his support of climate action.
I made a pledge to your state that you have the highest energy costs in the country. In the first year, they're going to be reduced by 50% because we are going to drill, baby, drill.
Palau International Coral Reef Centre researcher Christina Mulla-Karanasos says surveying of corals in Palau is underway after multiple reports of bleaching. She says the main cause is climate change.
It's upsetting. It's happening more often. There were areas where there was quite a lot of bleaching.
Upsetting because, to her, the marine life there is
the most beautiful and pristine reefs and amount of fish and species of fish that I've ever seen. It's really beautiful, and also it's so important for the health of the reef, and healthy reefs also support healthy fish populations, and that's really important for Palau.
University of Hawaii Manoa Dr. Tarsisius Tara Kabutaulaka suspects Mr. Trump will focus on the Pacific, but for geopolitical gains.
And so it will be about the militarization of the climate change issue, that you're using climate change to build relationships so that you can ensure you do the counter-China issue as well.
He says on the climate front, Mr. Trump has made his position clear.
He said, and I quote, that it is one of the great scams of all time. And so he is a climate crisis denier.
Not the kind of comments President Whips wants to hear, especially from a leader of a country which Palau is close to, or from any nation.
But we need the United States, we need China, and we need India and Russia to be the leaders to make sure that we put things on track. It really takes all of us. We are not talking about something that's going to happen in the future. It's happening now.
For the Pacific, the climate crisis is the biggest existential threat, and leaders like Whips are considering drastic measures.
We've got to look at alternatives, and one of those is nuclear energy. It's clean, it's carbon-free. So I want to be practical, and you need to find solutions, but it shouldn't be let's extract and exploit these resources so that we can now increase our addiction to fossil fuels.
That's right. That's Palau's president suggesting countries like New Zealand add nuclear energy to the mix in an effort to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees.
It's going to be a jam-packed Sevens rugby weekend for Pacific fans with their teams in action in global and regional competitions. Last weekend, the Fijian men's team ended a 22-tournament title drought in the HSBC Sevens series in Dubai. This weekend, they line up in Cape Town, chasing a back-to-back win. Closer to home, Solomon Islands is hosting the Oceania Sevens tournament for the first time ever, with 2 men's and 1 women's team assured a spot in the World Rugby Sevens Challenger Series in 2025. I'm joined by senior RNZ Pacific sports journalist Iliesa Tora. Bula Iliesa, let's start with Fiji. What are their chances of making it 2 from 2 in Cape Town?
Head coach Osea Kulinisau says they can. And that means they will need to be consistent. In saying that, he has also said that the team will need to do a lot of hard work. They will need to play according to their game plan, keep expanding on what they were able to show in Dubai last weekend. The pool matches are going to be Great Britain and Uruguay. They are the ones who are facing them in the pool. They will not be easy beats, as the two teams have shown that they will also, be fighting to win matches and earn points, especially now with the promotion relegation series at the end of the normal tournament, which ends in June in Singapore. And on the record, they haven't won any back-to-back since 2019. They won in London, and then a week later they did the same in Paris. So since then, they have not been able to win a back-to-back. Can they do it? Colin Sao believes they can, but it's going to demand a lot of hard work from his players.
How is Cape Town shaping up for the tournament, and what is in store for fans?
Well, Cape Town is interesting this weekend. World Rugby has changed the format, which now sees 3 teams each in 4 pools, both in the men's and the women's competitions. And only the pool winners will go into the semi-final, which demands that teams will need to be winning. There are only 2 pool matches, but teams that want to be in the final will need to win both matches. And, Fiji, Spain, France, New Zealand, Argentina, and of course the Springboks, the Blitz box, are going to be all fighting, to get into the semifinals, because there's only going to be 4 teams that will make it there. The rest will go into the playoffs for the bottom positions. So interestingly, a lot of focus will be on how the men's and the women's teams go. The Fijiana are not going to have an easy run either. They went through Dubai without a win, and they will be fighting hard again to try and earn points and stay in the series, with Australia and New Zealand being the top contenders.
Closer to home in Solomon Islands, Honiara is buzzing as the Oceania Sevens rugby tournament brings together the best of the Pacific. What's the relevance of the Oceania Sevens event, and how are teams shaping up for that tournament?
Well, yes, indeed. Honiara hosting the Oceania Sevens tournament for the very first time. The first time it's being held also outside of Fiji, Australia, and Samoa. And, the best of the Pacific are there, with Niue and Kiribati being the new teams, which shows progress as far as rugby in Oceania, especially in the Pacific, is concerned. The Oceania tournament offers 2 spots for the men's teams and 1 for the women to qualify for the World Rugby Sevens Challenge later next year. That allows teams to then win spots to play in the promotion relegation and become a core team. Samoa was in the HSBC 7 series. Unfortunately, they were not able to make it past the promotion relegation in July, so they are out. They have this opportunity. Their men's team have this opportunity, and they, along with Tonga and the Cook Islands, I believe are front runners to win the 3 spots that are available for Oceania. So very relevant and very important that the Oceania tournament is held, because that is a pathway for our teams in Oceania region, in the Pacific especially, to join Fiji, New Zealand, and Australia in the annual HSBC 7 series.
Now, there's more positive movements now generally being seen in women's rugby in the Pacific. What opportunities do Pacific women interested in playing the sport have nowadays that they didn't have in the past, especially in being recognized on the international stage?
Yes, definitely a big shift in the interest in women's rugby can be seen in the region now, with the emphasis from World Rugby, especially now on Oceania. The Sevens tournament in Honiara is one example, and it's another step towards giving women from the region the opportunity to advance on the international scale. Whoever wins the women's competition in Honiara, as I said earlier, will get the chance to play in the Challenger Series, and if they do well there, they can get into the HSBC 7 Series. Earlier in the year, both Fiji and Samoa qualified for the 2025 Women's World Cup. I know that is huge for the region, especially for women in rugby in the region, having 2 teams getting into that. And just say if they qualify into the last 8, into the quarterfinal in 2025, that will see them qualify directly for 2029. And then that opens the door again for another team from Oceania to be able to go through the Oceania Rugby Championship and also get the opportunity to play on the world stage. And then of course, there's the Super Rugby competition with the Super W and the Super Rugby Aupiki competitions in Australia and New Zealand. And for the very first time next year, they are going to have a final of the winners from both the competition playing off. So, indeed, a lot of opportunities for our women rugby players and interested rugby players in the region to get into the sport and get the opportunity to maybe win contracts for professional clubs in the sport.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, Tofua Suifo.